Hey guys, David Robinson here. Welcome to the Lead Sponsor Podcast. Today we're talking with Vikram Raya, the CEO of Viking Capital. Vikram has a background in the medical space. He's a cardiologist professionally, and about 8 years ago, dove headlong into the multifamily world. Started partnering with some other quality operators, ultimately decided to go off on his own, and has built a phenomenal company where Viking Capital has acquired 24 assets, roughly $600 million of value, and around 5,000 units, a little over 5,000 units. So he's built an incredible company while he was still working professionally. He does talk about in our interview about how he's made that transition to focus almost exclusively on multifamily at this point in time. But we dive into a handful of different things. We dive into sort of his mindset around building his company, what he's done, and the things that he's implemented from a team perspective, from a mindset perspective to help him grow to the level that he has. We talk about how he had to make some significant changes during the COVID crisis to his business. We talk about how his traditional business model was a one-off syndication model, and then he decided to implement a fund model where they were acquiring multiple assets inside of one fund, and how what he learned during that experience, some of the challenges that he faced, and some of the positives that came out of that, and why he's actually transitioning back to do a few more one-off syndications throughout the remainder of this year. We talk about his goal of trying to get to 10,000 units. He's currently over 5,000. He wants to grow to 10,000 units, and what he believes is most critical for him to get to 10,000 units. And I think that might surprise you. So really excited to share my interview with Vikram with you today. Before we do, please share, like, subscribe, comment on Apple Podcast, as well as our YouTube channel. We're in the process of trying to grow the YouTube channel right now. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the show. Make a comment. Tell us what you like, what you would like to hear more of, and we'd love to provide you with the content that you're seeking. So with that being said, let's dive into the show. All right, Mr. Vikram Raya, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Vikram, I've already given the listeners a little bit of a background on you. You know, you've had an incredible, roughly 7, 8 years or so as you've gotten into the multifamily space. 24 deals, over 600 million in acquisitions, and over 5,000 units. So the question that we all want to know is, all right, how do you get from where Vikram was to where he's at today as it relates to real estate? But before we dive into, where you're at today and what you see moving forward in your business, let's talk about the journey that you've been on over the years, how you got started in the space, a little bit about your background for some context, and we'll go from there.
David, I have no business being on your podcast, man. I should be in a heart catheterization lab putting a stent in somebody right now. But it's interesting how life takes its interesting turns. And so, when you have so many people in your family die of heart attacks, one of the things you go growing up is, hey, how can I help fix that? And I thought medicine was a good venue and route. Studied internal medicine, went to Georgetown. And then I was like, all right, I think I need to specialize because this is super important to, so many people out there have heart disease, the number one killer. And then on top of that, my own family. And then, I'm South Asian. And so that's a huge thing in our population as well. So I was like, how do I make an impact? And so I chose cardiology. In the middle of my journey in cardiology, I realized it's not what it's cracked up to be. I felt like the profession, is very reactive. It's like pill for an ill, and you wait for the problem to occur, then you go and try to put a band-aid on it. And I was like, let's go take care of this upstream, right? And that's when I stumbled across something called functional medicine, which is treating disease before it happens, treating this whole system, treating the soil, not just the plant. And I was like, oh, that's really cool, very innovative. Before I made the big entrepreneurial leap to do that. I was like, I need to protect my income. I have a mortgage, I have kids, I have a wife. It will be foolish to jump into something not tested without having other streams of income. I attempted stocks, options trading, didn't work out very well. Then I tried, then I was like, all right, what else can I do? Single family real estate made sense after reading the typical Kiyosaki trilogy. I was like, all right, that makes total sense to get into. Did it as a side hustle, and eventually I realized, I'm chasing three things, and I think your listeners are also chasing those three things, whether it is active or passive. It's called LGS: leverage, growth, and scale. And the only way to do that, I realized, was more doors for same amount of energy. So enter multifamily in 2015. I also knew that to get to your dreams, you need a team. Hence, I talked to another buddy of mine named Ravi Gupta, who was a doctor who was sort of semi-retired because he had a couple of, three plexes and four plexes. He was like sort of chilling. I was like, all right, man, let's go to the big leagues. This is nice. This is cute, but let's play for real. He's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, let's buy 100 unit. And he's like, there's no freaking way I'm going to buy 100 unit. How? No one does that. I don't know anyone who does that. I'm like, all right, well, I heard this guy speak. He talked about this thing called syndications and multifamily. To be honest with you, it sounded illegal. The whole word syndication, it didn't sound right. But we're like, let's do this. Got some mentorship, got some gusto, said some prayers, and then we got into it. Initially, just helping other folks, get their deals done. Then we're like, you know what? It's not that hard. Let's do ours. And what came from a side hustle has now evolved into sort of my full-time thing. I went down the path of opening my own medical clinic, which was amazing. I helped so many people get rid of diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, lose weight, optimize their hormones. But during the COVID crisis, I just sort of make a decision because, COVID really put a damper on that, and real estate was just exploding. And I was like, I learned two concepts there, and I want to share with your listeners, David. One was called ELF, another one's called HAF. ELF is easy, lucrative, and fun. HAF is hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. And even if it's your passion, even like, I thought cardiology was my dream. And then I thought doing this, wellness boutique concierge wellness clinic was my dream. But really what I'm chasing is freedom. I want the freedom to do what I want, in multiple categories, whether it's financial freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom, have like a bulletproof mindset, or like this super vital health, human optimization, biohacking, longevity. So when I was chasing these things, I was like, what's going to help me get there? And that's now my new rubric. If something's going to help me get there, I move toward it. If it doesn't, then either I modify it, or I put it on the back burner, or things like that. So now I'm at the point where I'm the CEO of, Viking. We've hit Inc. 5000 for the first time. We're really excited. We serve investors all over the country. I still have my clinic, but it's a smaller way, and it's more automated and virtual. And then now, so many physicians have been sort of reaching out to me, especially during the pandemic and afterward. I've opened up a mentorship and coaching to help doctors really achieve success in business and life.
Well, you are a high octane individual. So, you've accomplished more in the last 7 years than many would accomplish in a lifetime. Let's break down a few pieces of this. I do want to talk about this moment when you went to your doctor friend, Ravi Gupta, and said, hey, let's go take down a 100-unit apartment building. And this was back in what, 2015, did you say?
2015. Okay. Yeah. And multifamily wasn't as sexy as it is now. I mean, now it's like on everyone's front page, but it was really not mainstream back then.
Yeah. And so it sounds like you started out with Ravi, maybe with him, maybe not, but in partnering with some other operators on your first few deals to sort of get an understanding of how this process works, how you could be involved. And then you decided, hey, let's go and take this down on our own. What was that process like? Because a lot of our listeners are in that stage where they've probably been involved in a couple deals here and there, but they're ready to sort of take that leap off on their own and become a lead sponsor. What was that process like for you, and any insight that you might be able to share with our listeners that would be helpful?
First is awareness. I didn't even know that existed, right? I'll when I got into real estate, it was wholesaling for most people, which is really very difficult to do. And then it's rehabbing, and then some people were building with some luxury homes, and that was a thing. And that self-storage wasn't that big, multifamily wasn't that big. I mean, so, but I just felt like, I in the Kiyosaki story I think Rich Dad Poor Dad, he talks about apartment buildings. So that was initially the awareness of it. That's interesting. But the problem is I can't afford it. I don't have the income. Even as a cardiologist, I didn't have the income to buy even one apartment building. And it was the concept of learning to raise capital to do real estate and get paid while doing it was just mind-blowing. It's a paradigm shift. And I think that's really what unlocked the potential. And also realizing at the beginning, my wife told me, do not tell anyone what you're doing. Do not use your name, your doctor name, on the documents. You have to, and essentially when my father and I started our single family company prior to this, we were doing creative financing because I was not allowed to pledge my income, my wife's income, or net worth at all. And so, because she thought that was very risky. And so I had to do hard money loans. I had to get all this stuff done. So I was scrappy from the beginning. And then I just took that scrappiness and I was like, all right, this is great. And 30 homes seems like a lot, but the take home pay wasn't nothing to really change my lifestyle. And so I was like, I needed more units, more doors. I need to be more efficient. And I just needed to grow and scale this thing.
Yeah. And so when you decided to make that shift from co-GPing on someone else's deal, apartment deal, to actually becoming a lead sponsor and going after your own stuff and leading the charge and formulating a team around you to go take down a larger deal, what was that experience like?
Well, number one, we were looking for guidance. And initially the people who we helped, raise for their deals, we assumed they would help us, and that was not the right assumption. So it was not in their best interest to help us, for whatever reason. They felt like we were a good source of equity for them. Why would we want them to go off on their own? So the scarcity mentality was starting to creep into folks, and I've always had an abundant mindset. And if, I was like, look, there's enough deals for everybody. And if you help, the more people you help, there's a karmic currency that comes back, and so then I was like, all right, well, we'll just pay somebody to help us because we need to do this. And I realized that yes, it potentially I could pay and nothing will happen, and then that's just an expensive lesson. Otherwise, it's an investment into something that could potentially change my whole life. So I was like, I don't see this as a lose-lose. And the reason why I coach and mentor physicians who are entrepreneurial in their nature is because the worst case scenario in their life is them being a GI doctor or a neurosurgeon or a cardiologist. I mean, that's not a bad backup. So if you're a high income professional of any sort, there's literally no risk. And it's I wasted a year. No, you learned a lot in 1 year, and you can refocus and do it again. And even if it doesn't make sense for you to do anything active, your knowledge you've gained can help you become a very savvy, passive, sophisticated investor. So it's not taking action that's the biggest risk. It's the regret. Like I'm working with someone right now, and they're banking on a pension, and I'm like, you can't bank on that. There's no guarantee. You need to create your own, multiple wealth streams. And here's a quote for your listeners, David. The average millionaire has 9 streams of income. Multimillionaire, I would say, not millionaire, because millionaire in this day and age, a single digit millionaire still clips coupons.
Right. Well, let's talk about, let's move the conversation forward here. Let's talk about the incredible growth that you've experienced over the, a tremendous amount of work over the last 7-8 years or so. 5,000 units, roughly $600 million, 24 deals. You're at a unique spot today where you could probably really just sit back and enjoy what you have done over the last handful of years. What do you see on the horizon for Viking Capital? What are you trying to accomplish with this company?
I would like to have more vacations like I did last month, which was a month off in Italy with my family and having that company work. And so I I earned 300K in 1 month while I was away and not working. And it just that just blows my mind. I'm not saying this to impress anybody, just to impress upon them like if you figure this out, it can change your life. And you don't want to
Hmm.
figure this out when you're in your 80s and 90s. You want to figure this out when you're 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s because guess what? You can enjoy this life. Tim Ferriss says in the 4 Hour Work Week, the future retirement is not this, pie in the sky retirement at the age of, when you're old and gray, but it's really these mini sabbaticals, mini breaks, mini,
Mm.
vacations throughout your life. So you get to have it all and cherish it all. So my company is essentially a tool or a vehicle for me to achieve the lifestyle I want. It's a lifestyle design. But the second thing is, after about 25 days on vacation, I was itching to come back. And David, what that tells you is I really enjoy what I'm doing. It's not, let's say you gave me all the money in the world, I would still probably do this because it's intellectually stimulating. I love teams, I love people, I love solving problems, I love relationships, I like travel, and all that's combined in multifamily and sort of similar to
Hmm.
what you do, David, with your clients and your investors. And so that's number one. Number two is we have tremendous amount of impact. We've done I think we've supported at least 100 charities throughout in Viking, and some of them we've supported in a big way where we threw a huge charity galas. We've built a school in Bangladesh for people. We've helped pregnant women in DC. We've helped build homes. I mean, the list goes on and on. We've planted thousands of trees. We've done water projects in Africa. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just great. And I can do that because I actually have abundance, financial
Hmm.
abundance. So uh, the whole point of money is to magnify who you are. David, it sounds like you're a remarkable human being. If you had $10 million more, you could probably do even more impact for folks. And that's what I want for every listener here. 10 extra goals, aim higher, work harder, enjoy more, and then give back. That's it.
Yeah, love it. So let's talk about what's happening in the market today and what kind of impact that's had on Vikings' goals for this year. I'm interested because in preparing for our conversation today, I always like to try to listen to some other interviews that the guest has done. And I listened to an interview of yours at the very beginning of this year, which talked about your goal of acquiring another 6 to 8 assets in 2022. We're over halfway through the year now. I'm interested because that interview was before everything hit with interest rates and everything else. So I'm curious what kind of impact the market adjustments have had on your goals and how you're navigating that, and any insight you might be able to share with our listeners.
David, we got punched in the face in the middle of this year. Viking did, we did as sort of a company. One, because there's some business practices that I recommend for your listeners. One is, and this practice is this: always evolve, always improve. Improve your systems, improve your teams, improve your own leadership. The bottleneck of any company is the mindset of the leader.
Mm.
So I had to definitely expand, what's possible, even during economic cycles such as this. And Tony Robbins likes to call this an economic winter. Winter is coming, but in fact, most of the Fortune 500 companies have grown in winter. So that being said, what happened was, I think it had something to do with the economy, but also we changed investor portals, marketing companies, investor team personnel, business models going from a fund to from a single family asset uh, syndications to a fund model, all in a span of 90 days. And it was just, it almost broke the
Mm.
company because
Wow.
not big. These are all good things, perhaps in sequence, but not in unison. And so that was very challenging for our company. And thank God for our business operating system we run. We have EOS, and now we've moved on to something called Pinnacle. We have coaches, guidance, mentors. We've been building our own internal mental resilience, so we're able to withstand that. We've had cash on hand to handle the hits, and then we had a belief and faith. Hal Elrod talks about in his book, The Miracle Equation. You need to have unwavering faith and extraordinary effort. And so we actually implemented both of those things because we knew there was a way to. And now we're even stronger than before We're even better than before. We're ready to take on more deals. And so my goal is to do 8 deals this year. We're probably going to end up doing 6 total. So we've done 3
Mm.
already, and we're going to do 3 more. And talking about the economy, I'm excited because now I probably have a 90-day window before everyone realizes the world is not falling apart. Things are actually going to be okay, and they're going to jump back into the market. So I just went to Atlanta last week and met with 6 of my broker contacts and had breakfast with them, broke bread, and they gave me like off-market deals. They gave me deals falling out of contract. They gave me guidance on discounts that I could probably get for some certain projects. And so I'm like, cha-ching, let's go, And so I'm leaning into this uneasiness that maybe the world is experiencing because one, I believe in my asset class. Multifamily will stand the test of time. It's already proven it. I've studied historically the asset class for almost 80 years. I've seen what it has done. I'm not worried about it. And the only way you can lose money in multifamily is be a poor operator. And number 2 is sell at the wrong time. If you can guarantee those 2 things will never happen, you will not lose money in multifamily.
Love that. Got to write that one down. So you mentioned going from one-off syndications, which is what your typical business model had been in the past, to opening your own fund. It sounds like you've just recently closed that fund. So you've acquired 3 assets inside of that.
So in January, the goal is initially to do about 6 assets, through like 5 to 6 assets. And then the math for the fund was created in December of 2021, January of 2022. So, and it was great. I mean, people were excited. I was providing diversification. In fact, a fund typically is about 2.3 times less risky than a single asset syndication. So that's really why people love to do it. And they get exposure to multiple regions, multiple asset classes, multiple levels of apartments in different cities, right? So it intellectually makes sense. The challenge I have is I've sort of spoiled my investors, prior to this. I'm in my 8th year. For 7 years, I've been showing them single asset deals. And I've also trained them, I've educated them, I've empowered them to become very sophisticated and savvy. So they love sitting and analyzing each deal and asset. And so, they just want to have choice. They, hey, I want that one. I don't want that one. I don't want that one. And so, sometimes even though intellectually it makes something sense to you, as a business, you always listen to the customer. You always listen to your clients. You always listen to your investors. And so what I'm going to do is we're probably going to launch another fund next year, and maybe it will be like a 2-pack or a 3-pack, just like we did this time, but it will maybe a portfolio deal where some people want to get into that. Other people want to do the single asset, but instead of going all or none, I'm going to give much more options to my investors. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so you learned through that experience that your investor base, because of the way that you've sort of trained them and taught them to analyze these deals and determine, what deals they should be in, what they shouldn't be in, you realize that a lot of them have the desire to actually be able have the flexibility to place their investments and analyze their own deals at a high level, but place their investments and diversify by themselves versus diversifying through your fund. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah. I'll put it this way, our last deal we're buying from Blackstone right now. And then it made me think about it. I'm reading Steven Schwarzman's book, What It Takes, Blackstone CEO's book. And then, I started thinking about Blackstone. What is Blackstone? How are they different than like, some of the, really most reputable, sponsor syndicators who are my friends here in the US. And it's because they've gone so big, it's inefficient to do these single asset things. They have to write these huge checks and they need to take down, like large portfolios. Also, at that level, people are banking on Blackstone and what they're doing is at such a large scale. There's not enough sophistication for people to even do that, or they don't want to. And then their equity checks are so large that this is the only way that makes sense. And so I think at some point, all companies eventually go toward that model. Perhaps we're a little bit early in that story line, but it was to learn how to do a fund was an amazing experience, and I'm glad I did it. And probably we can continue to offer that in the future, along with our single assets. But I understand now, who funds work for, who it doesn't. I can advise people on it, and it's you just want to have multiple things. Like, me and you were talking in the green room about the fund to fund models as a really great way for, co-GPs and raisers to help consolidate their investors and be like the one platform so they can invest wisely. And I like that model as well. So it's
Yeah.
just exploring models that work and see what makes sense for your business and for your investors.
Yeah. Love it. The a final few questions for you. We've got a few minutes here, and as we start to wind down, a few things come to mind. The first thing that I would like to hear from you is what's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now in your business that we could all learn from?
I think it's learning to manage as your team grows, learning to manage the teams, learning to manage contractors or people who are like sort of external team members, internal team members, um, and really keeping the team well oiled. We have people who are having some challenges, perhaps, mindset wise, because of the economy or their own personal situation, and if that affects the business, that can. So your goal is to just uplift everybody, and so we're investing in coaching for our team. We're investing in like tools, productivity strategies. We have like a lot of camaraderie. We have like an end of the year event where we all get together, and if you could keep your team healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, your company can grow without limit. And then the other thing is, I happen to have a business partner on the team, and so that's really having the yin and yang with your business partner. There's two strategies that will be very helpful. Uh, there's a book called Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman, and it's really important to read because it talks about to run a company, you need usually two people, and sometimes one person can do both roles, but ideally it's two people: a visionary and an integrator. A visionary is a guy who has a big picture, big ideas, can really look down the road, has enthusiasm and energy. Then you got the guy who actually makes the trains run on time. You call him the integrator. And this person is detail oriented, can handle HR, can handle finances, can read boring legal documents and make sure that you're protecting the company. So when you have this nice yin and yang, again, a company can really accelerate and grow. And I guess the final thing is, like you got to have a powerful why. Like you said, like if I was just chasing some dollars, then I'd be like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to just chill and coast. But it's, what's really driving you, your company, your vision, what you're trying to accomplish, what's your legacy, and I'll tell you my personal one, and then you can sort of see how it may translate into the company. But there's three questions I ask. I call them the three primal questions. One is, did I live, did I love, and did I matter? And so these are like sort of like really powerful refocusing questions. And if I'm hitting those things and I'm chasing what I call my freedoms, life is pretty good. And as you build your team, you want to make sure all the team members buy into that common vision you've created, and they're ready to go all out for it.
Yeah. What's one thing that you're absolutely just crushing, knocking out of the park in your business right now that we could all learn from?
I would say it's maybe relationships. We really have done a good job. We have something called the Ritz-Carlton strategy for our investors, where we're trying to do the white glove service, educate them, empower them. Even if we're not the right investment choice for them, we point them in the right direction. But we want to serve them like ridiculously and really treat them so well. Same thing with our broker contacts. Same thing with our the sellers we're buying from. We want to make sure we do it as seamless as possible. We say what we do what we say, and guess what? They'll sell another deal to us. And if you just do this for all your relationships, make sure it's like a win-win-win. Our tenants, we do Wellness Wednesdays, so all our apartment complexes have all these like food trucks and CPR classes and all these things we're doing, so they feel like they want to live there more. So this is the positive effect of Viking Capital. Everything we're touching, should turn to gold.
And you mentioned a couple things that you do for the tenants. What are there any like granular sort of tactical level things that you're doing for investors that are having an impact on their experience with you? Is there anything specific that you're doing at Viking that sort of sets you apart when you're communicating or providing an experience for the investor?
We're starting to bring a lot more experts onto our platforms and then give them a ton of education so they can manage their investments wisely, because they're not getting this from their financial advisor at like Charles Schwab or Goldman or wherever they're banking. They have their little, here's your stock portfolio and that's all I got for you, versus they're getting a tremendous amount, and we're doing it for free. And We do these investor gifts. They love the fact that, they get swag or they get a gift box. And, it's just, we're not, we're just saying thank you, and it's meaningful when you do that. And then, we always recommend books. And so we always tell them to expand their mind. We're starting to do something where it's high level, where it's almost like an investor mastermind where, hey, I'm a business owner. This is what I need. And then within our investor group, there's probably someone who can provide that. And so it's a really powerful network we're trying to cultivate. We're probably going to do some events like the Porsche North America headquarters is in Atlanta, where we do a lot of our projects. Probably going to do a VIP investor event there. And it's more than the typical investment company. Most people are it's like a big blue gray machine. Put in your money in here. Here's your distributions here. All right. Don't let the door hit you on your way out, And we're trying to go beyond that. We want to really be the, like when you have an experience with Viking, it's like, all right, this is something that no one can compete with. And number two is I'm a physician. Ravi's a physician. We have another investor manager who joined our company named Ankit, who's also a physician. So we're starting to reach out to physician groups, physician practices, physician hospital systems, and really help them become more savvy in their investing.
Love it. So you had set a goal of getting to 10,000 units. What do you think needs to happen in your business for you to get there?
Stop doing any shiny object syndrome. Make it boring. Like Warren Buffett says, rinse and repeat. Just do it with a little bit more units as we're doing it. So essentially, stick to the 250 to 400 unit range. Buy them in the Sun Belt, suburban assets. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Don't get cute. Don't get funny. Be boring and be predictable. And your investors will like it. Your brokers will like it. Tenants will benefit from it. And we will grow exponentially as a company.
Great advice, timely advice. It seems that with all the market shifting, there has been a lot of would-be multifamily investors that are sort of retreating from the competitive environment that we're finding in the multifamily space, lower cap rates, higher interest rates, and looking for greener pastures. The reality is it's probably not as green as they might think in another asset class or another asset type. And so I love to hear, your focus, narrow-minded, just continue to do what you know and what you've become an expert in. So love that. Well, look, Vikram, this has been a great conversation. I've enjoyed hearing about your journey and your sort of high-minded philosophy around business. I love that you're looking at it from more of a holistic approach. And not just a nuts and bolts, income and expenses type perspective, although very important to a successful business. Love to hear about what you've done from a philanthropic perspective and what Viking has done to really have an impact on people as well as grow a phenomenal business. So before I let you go, what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you and learn more about what you have going on at Viking?
Yeah, we're on all the social media channels, but obviously vikingmultifamily.com is our main hub and portal. So you guys come on there and, chat with my team, browse around, learn, and let's see how we can support you.
Awesome. So that link will be in the show notes. If you enjoyed our conversation with Vikram and you want to learn more about his business and what he has going on, go down in the show notes right now, click on that link and connect with him and his team. Again, thanks for coming on the show, Vikram. Really enjoyed it and look forward to chatting with you down the road.
Thanks, David.